All right, guys, welcome back to another lesson for Math 7, lesson 115, factoring algebraic expressions. So for you guys to be good at this one, you have to know how to factor, like prime factorization. And so if you're not very good at that, you need to get really good at that, because that's literally what we're going to do. And algebraic expression have to do with letters as well, so with variables. So it has to do with constants and variables, and we're going to factor them out. So please know that you are supposed to know how to do this, and hopefully everybody does. And so let's dive into the lesson, because today is going to be really important. We're going to be talking about this in 8th grade, in 9th grade, in 11th grade, and so forth. Factoring is going to become really, really important in math itself. Actually, pre-calculus has factoring, calculus has factoring. So anything that you're going to do with math, you are going to need to know how to factor. So this is where we start getting those building blocks into place, so that when you get to higher up maths, you actually know what you're doing. So let's actually get into the lesson, because it's really important. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so algebraic expressions, as you know, have different names for it. We call them polynomials. Polynomials means many terms. And so this is a polynomial. This is a monomial. Monomial, one term, because we don't have the pluses or the minuses, all right? Let's actually switch this into a minus. And that's what it would be. So this is a polynomial, this is a monomial. And so how do you factor? The factorization then has to do with what did I multiply together to get this answer right here? What did I multiply to get this? So it's really easy, because to multiply for the 8, what do we multiply? Well, we could multiply 8 times 1, or 4 times 2, or 2 times 2 times 2, which is actually what we're going to do. We're going to do prime factorization for the numbers. So we can only use prime numbers that are multiplied together to get to 8. So we're going to say that for this one, the factorization is 2 times 2 times 2. It's pretty easy, right? Because we did the 8. Now, how do we get a squared? A squared is the same thing as a times a. So we multiply a times itself, and we get a squared, right? And then for b cubed, we multiplied b times b times b, right? And then c, we just had the c. So this is the factorization of that, of 8a squared b cubed c. What about this one? What we're going to do is we're going to separate them by the plus or the minuses, but it would be very similar. 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times x times x times x plus 2 times x minus 2 times 2 times 2. And so that's what I told you. You need to understand how to prime factorize so that you can factorize together. Now, understand something here. There's something really interesting here, and it is that in here, well, it's one term, but in here is 3 different terms, and even though there are 3 different terms, they do have something in common. And that thing that they have in common is a 2. Okay, I hope everybody can see that there's a 2 in common. I know that this one has another 2, and this one has 2 other 2s, but this one doesn't. So the 3 terms, the 4, the 2, and the 8, have a 2 in common. So we're going to actually take out the 2. And what we're doing in here is basically the opposite of the distributive property. Okay, so the distributive property was when you had like 2 times x plus 3, and you multiplied 2 times x and 2 times 3. 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 3 is 6. We're doing the opposite. We're taking it out. We're taking that 2 out into the front, and we're going to be left with 2x cubed plus x squared plus, oof, that x squared is weird. Don't like it at all. X squared plus, or minus, sorry. This doesn't change. Minus 4. And I factored. So you have to be careful, because when we factor monomials, it's just all this long chain. But when it is polynomials, you always have to see if you can actually take something out. This is not the best example. I can actually come back with something, but I think example 2 does a pretty good job of doing that. So I'm going to just go with example 2. Hopefully you understand the idea behind it is find whatever is common in between the 3 terms or the 2 terms if it's a binomial, and put it outside a parenthesis so it's the opposite of the distributive property. So that's how you actually factor. It's things that you've done before, but you just didn't know where we're going with it. And so we're trying to tell you where we're trying to go. So let's actually go into the examples for this lesson. So in this first example, it's very similar to what I did in the in the previous thing. I promise you I didn't know that they were going to use these, but it's pretty easy. I mean, how do you get 12? So 12, you multiply 3 times 4, or it's 2 times 2 times 3. So that's what we're going to say. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3 times A times B times B times B times C. And that's it. 2 times 2 times 3 times A times A times B times B times B times C. That is the factorization for that monomial 12a squared b cubed c. I told you it's not that hard, but let's then move into the most important example, which is example 2. And I wish they had more examples than just that. But let's just do example 2 and see where we go from there. All right. Now this example, we have a trinomial. 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, divided by the addition signs. And so we are going to do what we did in the previous one first, which is factor them individually. So how do I get 6? 6 is 2 times 3. How do I get a squared? A squared is a times a, and b is times b. All right, so hopefully you guys can see the dots that I'm drawing in between, which means the multiplication, plus, how do I get 4? 4 is 2 times 2. A is A. And B squared is B times B. Plus 2 times A times B. Okay? Hopefully you guys understand that. And so let me show you something here that's really important, and it is what numbers do we have in common. So the first thing that we have to do is by numbers, okay? So the numbers that are in common is the 2, and the 2, all right? So that's very important. Start with the numbers, then with the letters. What do I have in common? Do they all have at least one A? Yes, they have all at least one A. This has one A, this one has one A, this one has one A. At least. This one has one more A. This one doesn't have any more A's. This one doesn't have any more A's. What about B's? This one has one B. This one has one B. This one has one B. Okay? So look, the circled terms, the ones that I circled, are the ones that are going to go outside the parentheses. So I'm going to draw a parentheses. And I'm going to have a 2AB. What I like to do so I don't get confused is I'm going to cross out all this stuff that I already put outside because I already used it. I said it's common. It is common in between all my terms. So I'm going to put it outside the parentheses. What am I left with? A 3 and an A. If you want to, you can actually put a little rectangle around the things that are left. So I get a 3A plus, I still have a plus, 2 times B, plus what? A lot of students are going to tell me 0 here, but that just cannot happen. Because what is 2AB times 0? 2AB times 0 is 0, but that's not what we had at first. At first we have a 2AB there. So what is 2AB? What do I have to multiply? Sorry, what do I have to multiply 2AB by to get 2AB? Well, the same thing I have to multiply 1,000 to get 1,000. Or the same thing I have to multiply 7 to get a 7. What do I multiply 7 by to get 7? 1. What do I multiply 1,000 by to get 1,000? 1. What do I multiply 2AB to get 2AB? 1. I finished factoring. How do you check? The way to check is actually, I told you, the opposite operation of factoring is distributive property. you must do distributive property check because you guys are not good enough to be able to do it without checking. And so we're going to check by doing the distributive property. 2ab equals 3a, right? So 2ab is 6a squared b. And 2 times 2 is going to be plus 4a. And b times b is going to be b squared plus 2ab. This is the answer I got here. Therefore, my answer to the problem is this one, not this one. Sorry. This might be misleading because I circled this one. That's not the same answer. I'm just saying that this one is the same as the original problem. So that's the answer. Now, before I leave, I'm going to give another bonus just because I know that some people actually don't hang on all the way until the end. And so I'm going to do it. So this time, 5 people that comment below what their favorite fruit is. All right. So you just have to tell me what fruit is your favorite one to eat, obviously. And for those of you who get here and are already too late because 5 people already commented, you can actually go to the Google Classroom and you can tell me what your favorite soda is, all right? Or, yeah, soda, Coke, Sprite, Dr. Pepper, whatever, whatever it may be. And if you don't drink soda, then too bad for you, but you can also put, I don't drink soda or something like that. But it has to be related to soda, okay? So please do that. For the people that comment down below, it's going to be 3 points. For the people in Google Classroom, it's going to be 2 points, and that's it. I will see you guys in the next class.